What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel. It is time to give you my updated college football top 25 rankings as we head into week number 5 of the 2024 college football season. So after 4 weeks of college football, I feel like we know some about these teams, how good they are going to be, and then also for some teams that had a bye week in week number 3 and have just played like 3 games, we have no idea how good those teams are just yet. But after some teams that played 4 games already throughout the first 4 weeks of the season, I feel like we know about these teams. I feel like we know how good they're going to be and how not good they're going to be, but we'll find out in this top 25. And again, week number 4, we saw a lot of close games and a lot, not a lot of chaos. I mean, we did have some couple upsets here and there. We did see Michigan get a big win over USC, and then how about Kansas State going down to BYU? I mean, that was really a blowout in that game. We'll talk about that game here in just a little bit, but I'm going to get into my top 25 here for week number 5. This season has already gone by so fast, so we'll start here from the bottom and work my way up to the top. And again, I feel like we know more about these teams as we go into week 5 for some of these teams that have already played 4 games, and for some teams that have not played like 4 games yet. We don't really know how good those teams are. We still need one more week to kind of figure those teams out. So let's go ahead and get right into it here with my week 5 top 25 rankings. I will begin from the bottom and work my way up to the top. So we'll start here from 21 through 25. So I've made quite a few changes here to my top 25 for this week. I got Boston College at number 25, Arkansas at number 24, Kansas State at number 23, BYU at number 22, and then Iowa State comes in at number 21. So we'll start with Boston College first. They beat Michigan State 23-19. It wasn't a great performance by them, but they still got that close loss, of course, to Missouri from last week in week number 3. I'm still giving them credit for only losing that game by 6 points to a really good Missouri team that in real life is ranked in the top 10 in the AP poll, but I haven't really, I don't think Missouri is going to be ranked in the top 10 for pretty much too long, like I said, after that flat performance against Missouri. But Boston College, they do remain here at number 25 for me. They're still at 3-1. And again, they got that, close loss to Missouri. That's the reason why I kept them here in the top 25. But again, recapping their game, they beat Michigan State 23-19. A pretty solid Michigan State team for what I've seen in the, first 4 weeks of the season. But I got Boston College here at number 25. Arkansas at number 24. Big win on the road at Auburn in a low-scoring type game. I was really impressed with Arkansas's defense in this game. Auburn obviously looks like not a really good team this year. Auburn's been off to a really slow start so far this year. And you look at Arkansas, and you're probably saying, why are they in the top 25? They haven't played any tough competition. Well, they have played tough competition. They lost to Oklahoma State in week number 2. They went in double overtime, I believe, in that game. I couldn't remember if it was double overtime or triple overtime. I believe it was double overtime, though, is my best guess. But Arkansas only lost that game by 8 points. They were actually very competitive in that game. I know Oklahoma State lost this weekend, but Oklahoma State is a pretty good team still. So I'm giving the Razorbacks a lot of credit in that game against Oklahoma State a couple weeks ago. And, that's really enough for me to put them in the top 25. So last week I had Nebraska, and I also had Syracuse in the top 25. Those 2 teams lost over the weekend. So we had to put new teams into the top 25 this week. The teams that really have been impressing me the most. And Arkansas has been that team. So Arkansas here at number 24. Again, a big win on the road at Auburn, at one of the toughest places to play in all of college football. Kansas State at number 23. A very tough loss to BYU. BYU looks like a really good team. I'll get to them in just a moment. The Wildcats really just had a really sloppy game in the first half, and then, of course, second half they got blown out and only scored 9 points in this game. This was not the same Kansas State team that we saw against Arizona in week number 2 on that Friday night game after their first, not their first Big 12 game, but also their non-conference game against Arizona. This did not look like the same team, and I think because of that, I feel like it was their first real, true road game, and also BYU just looks like a really good team as well. So yeah, Kansas State, a very tough loss for them. I had them at number 15, I believe, from last week, so they do drop a good amount here, and they go from 15 to 23 here on my rankings. But I still got them ranked here. I'm not going to penalize them out of the top 25 for that blowout loss. I mean, they got a win over Arizona. I think Arizona's a pretty good team. Obviously they didn't really play that well against Kansas State on that Friday night game, but I got the Wildcats here of Kansas State at number 23. BYU at number 22, a very impressive win over Kansas State. They blow them out there in the second half. This team is 4-0, and this has been a really big surprise team so far in the Big 12. You got BYU that is probably a dark horse team now in the Big 12. They're not really that far behind of the top teams in the Big 12 either. We saw Oklahoma State lose to Utah, so I think Utah might be the front runner right now, but BYU is not really that far behind them. I feel like they're just a dark horse contender, though. This was their first real test of the season, and they come out really fired up in the second half, and they just blow out Kansas State 38-9, I believe was the final score of that game. So BYU here at number 22 at 4-0. This has been a very big surprise team so far. And then Iowa State was back in action this weekend. They take care of business against Arkansas State 52-7. They are at 3-0 at number 21. They have that win over Iowa, of course. And that Iowa win is looking like a really good team, it's looking like a really good win for the Cyclones, so I got them here at number 21. So yeah, Iowa State and BYU are two teams here in the Big 12 that could be dark horse teams in the Big 12. Iowa State has not played like a Big 12 opponent yet. I kind of want to see them play like a Big 12 team in order to kind of like be called a dark horse team, but we can already call BYU a dark horse contender in the Big 12. So I got these two teams in the top 25 for this week, and these are my rankings here from 21 through 25. Let's now go from 16 through 20. So I made quite another few changes here from 16 through 20. I got Illinois here at number 20, Notre Dame at number 19, Oklahoma's at number 18, and then Oklahoma State at number 17. And then I got Clemson here at number 16. Illinois, a big win on the road at Nebraska on Friday night. They win by a touchdown in overtime. Illinois makes a big-time stop at the end of the game, and they win this one 31-24. Nebraska was ranked for me last week in my top 25, but after that loss, they do drop out of the top 25 for me. And again, it's another close loss for Nebraska. This goes back to, of course, the few years that they, had some close games and lose by one possession. They had a chance to win this game where the game-winning field goal, but obviously they missed it really wide right, and Illinois, of course, takes advantage. So yeah, Illinois gets a big win there on the road at Nebraska. And based off of what I've seen so far for this Illinois team, that tells me they are a dark horse team in the Big Ten, and I think this team could definitely be a surprise team. Not saying they're going to get up there to the top 10, and everything, and also be that top contender in the Big Ten and everything to get to the Big Ten championship. But so far, just based off of what I've seen, Illinois looks like a really good team. They beat Kansas a couple weeks ago. Although that game, against Kansas, it doesn't look like a really good win for Illinois because the Jayhawks are off to a really slow start. They just lost to West Virginia 32-28. So yeah, that Kansas game is not looking like a real good win for Illinois. But either way, the Nebraska win is a really good win. So they are 4-0. Illinois at number 20. This has been a really big surprise team so far, just like BYU. Notre Dame at number 19. They beat Miami of Ohio University Redhawks. They pull away in the second half. A slow start for them at first half. I don't know why Notre Dame continues to struggle against Group of 5 teams, but Notre Dame gets the win over Miami of Ohio. At least they didn't lose that game, so Notre Dame here at number 19. Oklahoma at number 18, a tough loss for them against Tennessee by 10. The Sooners, really struggled on the offensive side of the football. They turned the ball over in this game too much. Defensively, I thought they played pretty well. Now, they gave up some touchdowns in this game, but they didn't really give up explosive plays in this game. Tennessee had explosive plays here and there, but, Tennessee really couldn't move the football in this Oklahoma defense. And they really stopped the run of Tennessee in this game. They really stopped the hurry-up offense a little bit as well. But still, Oklahoma really struggled on the offensive side of the football. I think based off of the first 4 weeks, I think Oklahoma's offense is not really the best, but their defense, I think, is going to be really good. But it's definitely going to be a struggle for Oklahoma to get an SEC win. We'll see how they do coming up here in the next few weeks. I don't know if I feel like they play Auburn this weekend, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's a game that's coming up for them this weekend, if I'm not mistaken. So that Auburn game might be a winnable game for Oklahoma. We'll just have to wait and see. But again, just a lot of mistakes here by the Sooners. And they also went with a quarterback change as well. Jackson Arnold got subbed out after the 3 turnovers that he committed. I still think Jackson Arnold's a really good quarterback, but the offensive line was the biggest issue as well for the Sooners. But I got the Sooners dropping here at number 18. And then Oklahoma State at number 17. So I do drop them out of the top 10 and drop them them here inside just the top 20. Oklahoma State, a very tough loss, a heartbreaker loss to Utah. They nearly came back in this game. They were down 22-3. They sub Alan Bowman back into the ball game. The receivers finally started to step up for them, and they had a chance to recover an onside kick and also make a stop on third down. I think the biggest mistake, though, that Oklahoma State made in this game was subbing out Alan Bowman at the start of the second half. If he would have continued to play, I feel like Oklahoma State would have won this game. Now, they did turn the ball over a few times in this game. I believe like a couple of times, maybe 3. Both teams turned the ball over a lot in this game. But Oklahoma State here at number 17, I was really impressed with their performance in the second half, but it's not enough to come up with a win. And again, Oklahoma State and Oklahoma are pretty similar teams over the weekend. Going with different quarterbacks. We saw the backup for Oklahoma State, and then we saw the backup for Oklahoma come in. So yeah, both of these teams are pretty similar. They made some bad coaching mistakes over the weekend, and they come up with losses. So both of these teams do drop here into the top 20. And then Clemson at number 16, very impressive win against NC State. They score 50-plus points on NC State. Now, in the second half, I wasn't really impressed with Clemson's defense. I feel like Clemson's defense definitely doesn't have some issues, but it's going to take a while for them to kind of get better on the defensive side of the football. But, you look at this Clemson team compared to the Georgia game in week 1. This definitely looks like a different Clemson team kind of compared to that first game of the season. And again, Clemson's kind of reminded me of the Oregon team that we saw a couple of years ago. Remember, they lost to Georgia in a blowout, and they come, after that game, they really kind of got better and better as the season went along. They didn't make it to the Pac-12 championship, but, Clemson is looking like that Oregon team that we saw a couple years ago, where they're on a winning streak and they're playing pretty well. So, yeah, Clemson comes in at number 16. They had a bye week, of course, a couple weeks ago. They come in, of course, and blow out NC State. We still don't know how good this team is, but I feel like the offense is a lot better compared to the last few years, and Cade Klubnik's playing pretty well. So Clemson here at number 16. These are my rankings here from 16 through 20. All right, 11 through 15. LSU at number 15, USC at number 14, Michigan at number 13, Louisville at number 12, and then Missouri comes in at number 11. So I had a really tough time from 11 through 15. I know Missouri and Louisville should not be ranked ahead of Michigan, USC, and LSU, but there was really not any options out there. Louisville and Missouri, I couldn't really, put them behind these two teams. Missouri, I know they struggled against Vanderbilt, one of the worst teams in the SEC, but we'll start with LSU. They beat UCLA 34-17. Big win there for this LSU team. They really struggled in the first half against this UCLA team. It was tied up at 17 at the half, but LSU pulled away in the second half. Their defense played pretty well, and Nussmeier got things going in the second half as well for LSU. So I got the Tigers here at number 15. We'll see how they do against another SEC opponent this weekend and see if this LSU team can get better and better as the season goes along. But a big win against a Power 4 team in UCLA. USC at number 14, a tough loss for them against Michigan, although I have them moving down 2 spots. I had them at number 12, of course, this past weekend. USC, I didn't really penalize them, and I couldn't really put USC behind LSU because of the head-to-head matchup, so I got to keep the Trojans ahead of LSU here because of that head-to-head in week 1 in that Las Vegas kickoff game. So yeah, USC, a very tough loss for them in their first Big Ten conference game. It was a 3-point loss, 27-24. The defense really had a tough time stopping the run game of Michigan, and I feel like Michigan just had a game plan. Michigan just was going to run the football in this game, and they really tried to waste that clock down, and that's exactly what they did in this game. So yeah, USC moves down a couple of spots for me. They're sitting there at 2-1. We'll see how they do going against other Big Ten teams, but this is a very tough loss for them. I was favoring USC pretty much throughout the entire week, but Michigan definitely proves me wrong. Michigan might be back on track, and then Michigan comes in here at number 13. Again, a big win over USC. The running game looked really good for Michigan. I feel like if they stick with the running game and really try to waste the clock down on some of these really good teams coming up this year, Michigan could definitely get back in that conversation as a top contender. Remember, this was their first Big Ten conference game. The Texas loss from a couple weeks ago is not a bad loss for them. Texas is a really good football team, so Michigan here at number 13, a bounce-back win for them after the loss to Texas a couple weeks ago, and also definitely gets them back on track after that, bad game against Texas a couple weeks ago. ago as well. So Michigan here at number 13. And then Louisville and Missouri, again, I wasn't really sure where to rank these teams, but Louisville comes out of the bye week. They beat a pretty solid Georgia Tech team. Tyler Shough looks really good at quarterback, and then Louisville has just overall looked pretty good in their first 3 games of the year. We still don't know how good this team is because they've only played 3 games so far. But again, the Cardinals here at number 12, and then Missouri at number 11. A close game against Vanderbilt. I was really close to dropping Missouri here, but I can't really put them down here because I feel like if you put a winning team that just won over the weekend, it definitely penalizes them. But either way, Missouri here is at number 11. And Missouri definitely looks like a really good team, but, I feel like when they get into these big games, I feel like, they haven't played that well. Boston College, of course, is a really good win for them a couple, weeks ago, so I'm still giving them credit for their, for that win. So Missouri here at number 11, they remain undefeated at 4-0, and these are my rankings here from 11 through 15. All right, 6 through 10 as we go to the top 10 here. I got Tennessee at number 10, Miami at number 9, Utah at number 8, Penn State at number 7, and then Oregon comes in at number 6. Both Oregon and Penn State had bye weeks this weekend, so not much to talk about those 2 teams. Tennessee, though, a big win on the road at Oklahoma. Again, I was really impressed with Tennessee's defense. That really made the difference in this game. I feel like Tennessee now becomes a really big threat in the SEC. I feel like they're definitely close to one of those top contenders. I think they can probably challenge Georgia this year and also Alabama, and also definitely some other teams in the SEC. Although they don't play Ole Miss or Texas in the regular season, they just play Georgia and Alabama, the other top 5 teams in the country. So yeah, Tennessee definitely after this win over Oklahoma, it was definitely a pretty important win for Tennessee just to get that confidence going the rest of the way. But I got the Vols here at number 10. Again, really impressive performance against the Oklahoma offense, and defensively they look pretty solid as well. So Tennessee here at number 10 at 4-0. Miami, a slow start for them in the first half against South Florida. They get the win though, 50-15. They remain undefeated at 4-0. And the Hurricanes, I kind of want to see them play like a really good team. Again, they beat Florida, in week 1. That obviously kind of looks like a really solid win, even though Florida got the win over Mississippi State and everything. But I got the Hurricanes here at number 9. Again, they get the win over, South Florida after a pretty slow start in the first half. So Miami at number 9, and then Utah at number 8. And again, they beat Oklahoma State here 22-19. But look at Utah in that second half. They made quite a lot of mistakes there in the second half, especially on the defensive side of the football. They gave up some penalties in this game, made a lot of, really bad mistakes. But, either way, a win's a win for Utah. They're definitely the clear favorite to win the Big 12, in my opinion. Don't sleep on BYU, though. They're definitely a dark horse team in the Big 12. But this is, as of right now, is the clear favorite to win the Big 12, especially after that win over Oklahoma State. So I got Utah here at number 8. Cam Rising did not play in this game. Isaiah Wilson made a couple of mistakes in this game, but I think he's going to get better and better as the season goes along. But we'll see what the status of Cam Rising is as we go forward. Penn State and Oregon, already talked about them. They had bye weeks. They'll be back, or actually, Penn State actually didn't have a bye week. They were back in action this week against Kent State. They blow them out, so Penn State with a big win. And then Oregon had a bye week. So Penn State and Oregon here at number 6 and number 7. And these are my rankings here from 6 through 10. Let's now go to the top 5. So I got Ole Miss at number 5. This is the same top 5 from last week. Ole Miss took care of business against Georgia Southern. We're still kind of waiting to see how good Ole Miss is, against a really tough opponent. You could say that Wake Forest game, in week number 3 was a tough opponent for them, but it really wasn't. They beat that team 40-6, and Wake Forest is just overall not a really good team. The Rebels, I kind of want to see them play like a really good team, so we'll see in the next few weeks and see how good this team is. But again, Ole Miss's offense looks really good already. The defense, though, I have to see them play like a really good team in order to kind of figure this team out. So I got Ole Miss here at number 5. And then Alabama had a bye week, so not much to talk about them. They'll get ready for Georgia this weekend. That's obviously a big game, and I think that's going to probably decide how good this Alabama team is. And then Texas, we saw Arch Manning take the field for the first time in his first career start. Was 15 of 29, 2 touchdown passes, had 1 interception. So I would say he was a bit up and down here, but I feel like Quinn Ewers will be back here for next weekend. We'll see how good Texas is when they get into SEC competition. They'll play Mississippi State this weekend in their first ever SEC conference game, and we'll see how ready Texas will be here in the SEC. Oklahoma seems like they're not ready just yet, but again, it's still early kind of in the season here. We still have to figure out how good these teams are. But Texas here at number 3, they still got that win over Michigan a couple of weeks ago. That's looking like a really good win for Texas because Michigan just won over the weekend. So I got Texas at number 3. Ohio State at number 2. They were back in action against Marshall this weekend. Still trying to figure out how good the Buckeyes are going to be. We'll have to see them play like a tough competition. They'll play on the road at Michigan State this weekend. A pretty solid Michigan State team coming off a close loss to Boston College. I feel like Ohio State will definitely be the big favorite in that game. But again, still kind of waiting to see Ohio State play a tough opponent. They're here at number 2, and then Georgia at number 1 had a bye week as well. Georgia a couple weeks ago had a tough game against Kentucky. They'll be back on the road this weekend. I think they kind of needed that bye week to kind of figure out how good Alabama is, and also after that really tough game against Kentucky a couple weeks ago, they really just needed a break. So we'll see how Georgia bounces back after the close win against Kentucky a couple weeks ago, and they'll get ready for Alabama. That is going to be a big game there, and I feel like that game probably decides who probably will be the front runner in the SEC, or maybe how good these teams are going to be the rest of the way. So that is my rankings from 1 through 5 in the top 5, and that is my official updated college football 2024 top 25 rankings as we head into week number 5 of the 2024 college football season. So let me guys know what you think about this top 25. Give me your top 25 teams down in the comments below. Thanks for watching this video, and stay tuned here for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports YouTube channel.